Everything's good. Check, check, check. Okay. All right. Hey guys, it's Flying Scorpion here. It's been a while since I've made a video. Haven't really felt particularly inspired to make a video in a while, but with all the stuff that's going on with Helminth and lots of other YouTubers covering all the other stuff, and I think Brosine looked at every combination possible in the Helminth system, and there's just not much need to talk about what's going on with the Helminth system. There's just lots of information out there. But I haven't really seen anybody talk about something else that's really kind of annoying. You go to the Warframe forums, and by the way, in this video, we're going to make a trip down to the Warframe forums. You see people throwing around this term power fantasy, and they're using it as this like end-all be-all argument to game balance. So let's say, for example, there's something in the game where you just push this button and it kills all of the enemies in like a 10-mile radius or something. Somebody will go, this is kind of like broken overpowered, it trivializes the game. And the people who don't want that to be nerfed will say, but Warframe's a power fantasy, so therefore leave it in the game, don't take it out. And it just doesn't resonate very well with me, and I'm sure it doesn't resonate well with some other people as well, because I posted on the forums finally after getting irritated enough to the point by seeing these arguments against game balance, and it's annoying. So we're going to make a trip down to the forums here. So before I do, I want to give a shout out to some people that have made some nice comments to some of the videos that I made. So let me just pull up the screen here. Let me move this out of the way and go here. Here we go. So I was browsing through the Warframe subreddit, and I saw that somebody linked one of my videos. It was the Is Viral OP video. And it said, an in-depth comparison of corrosive, viral, heat, and magnetic. I put a lot of work into that video, guys. It's probably one of the biggest reasons why I have a decent amount of subscribers. This is not my video. All credit goes to Flying Scorpion on YouTube. Here's an extremely informative and helpful video for any player, no matter how much you've played the game. I have never seen anything like this for Warframe, and the guy deserves immense credit for doing this. Oh, thank you so much. Oh, it feels good to get some validation like that. That was Aces of Athens that said that. So thank you, Athens of Athens, for your comment. I saw it. I do appreciate it. We'll go to a couple other comments here. Somebody commented, Carmen Sayez commented on my tutorial on how to beat the Jackal and said I'm a beginner, so thanks so much for sharing. You're welcome, Carmen Sayez. That's why I made that video. I'm sure as time goes on, as months or years go on and new players come to the game, they can check out that video and hopefully it'll help them out. Invisible Air commented on my Is Hero Good in 2020 video, said that's what I want to see. Keep up the good work. Thank you, Invisible Air, for that comment. And Sean Krajnik commented on the Is Viral OP video, and he said this video was excellent. Thank you. I agree with you about Viral performing better than Magnetic at what Magnetic specializes in. And he has an idea here. We'll just share the idea. An idea I had that would help would be to add to a bonus effect when enough stacks of Magnetic was applied, like 10 stacks, and the shield was broken, an EMP wave could radiate from the enemy and instantly disable nearby enemy shields. That would make single target weapons and Magnetic have a more significant niche. That sounds pretty powerful to me. I don't know, it might be overpowered, but thank you for sharing. I appreciate the comment, and let's move on. Okay, so I posted a thread on the Warframe forum. I said, since when has power fantasy become a compelling argument against game balance? I'm going to guess and say it's when Quiet Shire made a video and used power fantasy as a term in her video, but I could be wrong. I just know that I'm seeing it a lot in the forums. So I said, Warframe is an action game. You know what separates edge of your seat action from falling asleep in your chair action? If the protagonist is actually put at risk. Like if they might actually die or fail or whatever. If the protagonist effortlessly overcame any semblance of a challenge, it would become predictable and boring. If the protagonist barely manages to overcome the challenge, it keeps you on the edge of your seat. That is all. Feel free to trash me now because I said something that conflicts with your worldview. And I actually didn't really get trashed by anybody, which is nice. Maybe it's because I said, feel free to trash me. I'm like, well, we don't want to play into his hand. And the very first comment, wonderful comment by Aldane, who's got a lot of karma, 10,000 karma in only 5,400 posts. So he's got like almost twice as much karma as he does posts. He said, since people became complacent with what basically amounts to a /kill-all command through some Warframe abilities. I'm convinced people don't actually want to play Warframe. They just want the rewards for nothing at all. And wow, that guy nailed a really solid point there. And I actually brought this up in my featured video. It's been my featured video for like months and months now on the Kuva Lich system when it first came out. I specifically said, and I showed some background footage of me playing Ember on Sanctuary Onslaught, and I just press 4 and everything dies. And I go, it's like a /kill-all command. And I go, when are you satisfied? When do you have enough power? And I said, having that much power is fun for a little while, but it gets boring after a while. It's like, okay, well, this isn't all that interesting. It's like killing bugs. And I'll go straight to, where is it? I'll get to the comment later on down here. There's some other good comments here. I'm going to skip over some of them. But we've got a couple comments that are very similar. Well, open beta started in 2013, and I'm pretty sure I played an open beta. I'm pretty sure I did. There hasn't been any balance of the type you referred to during that time, so at least 7 years ago. I don't really agree with that. To answer the question in the title, probably since the open beta in 2000 and update 7. So we've got a couple people saying that, and then you got this sort of recurring theme throughout it. But there's some really good arguments against that. So we'll close out of this, and close out of that, and close out of that. And I replied to Aladane. I said that's a hot take for what he said, where people don't want to put any effort. And he said, I mean, when you look at how much effort players put into literally not playing the game, it does make me wonder. Remember Scarlet Spear and how insanely pissed off some people were when they couldn't drop down a Limbo Cataclysm, hit Stasis, and then AFK for the entire mission. People were literally complaining that they needed to actually play the game to get the rewards. And worse yet, they were content with the only gameplay being you're driving a space bus towards a satellite to an alien ship, hopping on board said ship, putting down a relay spike, hitting 4 and 2 on Limbo until the countdown ended. That's not engaging gameplay, and we saw nerfs happen, but when they nerfed it, of course, people came and complained about that. So this is a tricky thing for DE because they gotta start saying, deal with it. Like, tough luck, guys. Deal with it. We're not going to let that happen. But DE is very sensitive to feedback, and you've got a very vocal group of players that bash them whenever they nerf things. And I don't think that's fair. I don't think that's really right or healthy for the game to prevent them from nerfing things. But even if all of that was not a factor, I have zero faith that many people wouldn't have just kept doing the Limbo thing. I'm 100% convinced that Digital Extremes could make a fun, engaging experience with great and consistent rewards, and people would complain that they had to do more than press 4 to get said rewards. Look at the Disruption game mode. Disruption game mode is one of the best things that Digital Extremes has come up with. It's an awesome game mode, but it requires some effort. It requires thinking. It requires skill, but you're rewarded for all that. If you want to be lazy on that game mode, you can. You can just go in there, succeed on one conduit, and then basically just AFK and or just activate the remaining 3 conduits, and then you win, you get your reward kind of thing. But anyway, Aldane says, I have no faith in the community at large of Warframe whatsoever. Maybe that's just my issue, but I keep seeing things that make me lose additional bits of hope I didn't even know I had left. And that has just made me utterly apathetic to the plight of people who want effortless power creep. And I totally feel him on that. And I think that's a very common thing. You've got these overwhelming posts and comments and rages and people getting mad and whatnot, wanting the game to be easier, wanting power creep to continue going on. And then there's people like Aldane and myself and some of these other commentators that would prefer to have more balance, at least, or some sort of balanced experience for us somewhere in the game, in the end game, without having to power ourselves down in order to feel that. And after a while, you just feel like giving up. You're like, well, what's the point of even arguing? It's obvious that these people that want power creep to go out of control are winning. Digital Extremes is going in their favor. why even say anything at all? So yeah, I feel him on that, but I still think it's worth it to say something. And this next comment is really the jewel of the whole thing. This is such a good comment. Voltage, who has 52,000 reputation with only 9,400 posts. That's like over a 5-to-1 ratio. Or maybe it's around 5-to-1. That's a really good ratio. This person is so succinct and like bang. I really wish that I could just like download their ability to explain things in such an effective manner. So let's just read it. This slow trend evolved over time because of how Digital Extremes has conditioned players. That alone is an entire video onto itself. I've actually been trying to make a video about this, but I never feel like I can do it justice because I'm not good enough at explaining this subject to give it all of the good description that it deserves. But I'm going to attempt to a little bit in this video. All right, let's move on to the next thing he said. I don't believe Warframe was ever a balanced game, but the power ceiling did require hefty investment to reach there. We had Greedy Mag, Aimbot Mesa, Sarin Nukes, etc. However, back then, we had Tier 4 Void keys, daily capped revives, no self-revives, the Void Key system, no shield gating, no adaptation, no Inaros, no Magus lockdown, repair, elevate, no focus, half of the prime mods, no Riven mods, no helmet abilities, etc. Boom, he nailed it. Like all these people are going, oh, since the update 7, since the open beta. No, we didn't have such easy access to energy. Trinity was the only way to get energy. You couldn't just drop the Xeneric energy regeneration thing. You couldn't just build 100 energy pads at a time. You couldn't have Arcane Energize, where you pick up an energy orb and you get like 100 or 150 energy in one blast and it gives it to everybody else around you. It was not so easy to get energy back then. Casting Warframe abilities, that was the limit. You had these bursts of power, like your ultimate really was a big deal. Like look at an ultimate in a game like League of Legends. It's an ultimate. It's like, it's not something you just keep spamming over and over and over again, like on a 3-second cooldown. On Warframe, that's the way it works, which is crazy. So it wasn't as overpowered as it is today. Anyway, I'm going off track here. Let's get back to what Voltage says. Voltage, super huge kudos to you. You are very good at explaining things. Okay, Warframe was still a power fantasy, but it was reeled in. It was dialed back. Now, what do we have? Well, we still have the same enemies from long ago. Heavily nerfed. They have been heavily nerfed. We have insane survivability. Dying is trivial and has no consequences, and yet people lose their shit when they die to their Kuvo Lich breaking their back over their knee. Every single Warframe, that's no longer the case anyway, every single Warframe has an operator to heal them, etc. We've just gotten way more tools with a higher power ceiling and the same enemies for 5+ years. I think they're kind of hinting at something. We need better enemies to match the power that we have. Every time Digital Extremes wants to spice things up, like when Fortuna launched, players complained about the enemies being too tough. Yes, he's right. He or she. This happened to Scarlet Spear initially. DE has catered to this crowd, and that's why there is never risk involved in a player's actions and equipment past a couple hours into the game. I think that might be a bit of an understatement. A couple hours into the game, it takes a little more than that, probably like 100 or 200 hours. Really bad loadouts manage missions, and optimized ones completely steamroll. It's just how the game has formed. People want maximum rewards for the least effort, and DE has said yes to that crowd. DE has said yes to that crowd. People want maximum rewards for the least effort. This slow trend evolved over time because of how Digital Extremes conditioned players. There's a reciprocal relationship there, okay? Now, I'm going to get into some psychology here a little bit, and you might find this interesting. So when you're conditioning something, like a player or a baby. A baby's a really good example. When you're raising that child, you have an influence on the development of that child. And so the digital extremes relationship with their player base conditions their player base over years on what to expect and what kind of feedback they give to get certain responses. So for example, if you've got a small child that wants to have a chocolate bar and you're at the checkout line in a grocery store and you say no, you can't have it, and then they cry because they're upset because they can't manage their emotions because they're a child. Like, kids are stupid, man. They don't have control over their emotions like a grown-up does. So they freak out and cry because they can't get it and they can't handle the emotions. And then the parents like, oh, everybody's looking at me, and then they go, okay, here's the chocolate bar, just to get the kid to shut up. Now the kid has learned that crying gets their way, or they're starting to learn that. Every time that you cave in and you give them that chocolate bar, you're reinforcing that behavior. So then the kid goes, I want the chocolate bar, and you go, no, you can't have the chocolate bar. You got one last time, and the time before that, I can't get you chocolate bar every time. And then they start freaking out and crying, not because they can't handle their emotions anymore, but because they know that if they do that, it's going to make you feel uncomfortable, and then you're going to eventually get them the chocolate bar. But if you keep going, no, I'm not going to give them the chocolate bar, and you wait, and you wait, well, they know that if they go long enough, you'll give it to them, and you give it to them. And every time you do that, you make that stronger. Now, that's one side of the reinforcement. And I agree with what Voltage is saying. Digital Extreme has conditioned their players in this direction. The converse is true as well. The players have reinforced Digital Extremes towards having power creep in their game. So if you look at it, it's negative reinforcement. The kid is crying and the parent feels really uncomfortable and doesn't like that. Digital Extremes is sensitive to players saying mean things to them, right? Like, you see it all the time. With Steve Sinclair is up on the stream, he reads the chat, fix your effing game. You can just see it. It's like, oh, it goes right into him, man. It can tell that it bothers them. They're sensitive to that stuff. So when the kid's freaking out and the kid stops crying, the removal of the freak out, the removal of the crying, the removal of the insults or the negative feedback is the reinforcing factor to give the chocolate bar, to give in to power creep. So you've got this reciprocal process where they're reinforcing each other and strengthening each other. And, I feel some sympathy for like D. Scott, for example, when he's got to nerf something and people, flip out and they keep having to pull this. It really is like looking at a parent dealing with a child, where the child's got your cell phone and you're trying to get your cell phone back, but you got to give the kid something in response so that they don't freak out and cry and shit their pants. So you get like a lollipop and you go, hey, do you want the lollipop? And you do the switcheroo. You take the phone and you give them the lollipop and hopefully they're content with the lollipop. Remember the nerf to Itzal's Blink? Totally the same thing. It's like they took away Itzal's Blink, but then they gave every Warframe the ability to blink on a limited cooldown. It's like they did the switcheroo. Or with shotguns, for example, when DE said Steve Sinclair was like, we took away some status chance, but then we tripled the status chance and spread it across all the pellets. So it's like a nerf and a buff at the same time kind of thing. Like they're doing the whole like, we're taking away this, but we're giving you that to keep people a little more placated. It's kind of funny, but this has been going on for a long time, and I want to talk just a little bit more about this in this video. I've tried to talk about this in videos before with more video editing, but it's just I never feel like I'm satisfied with how well I do. But there's more to this, okay? Imagine you've got a power line right here, and this is the average. So you've got like the original Warframes, Mag, Excalibur, etc., and they're like around here on power level. And as time goes by, they add things a bit below and a bit above the power curve because they're human beings, and it's almost impossible to have something perfectly balanced when you add it to the game. Some things are going to be slightly overpowered, some things are going to be slightly underpowered. Not a big deal. But the thing is, when they add something that's obviously busted overpowered, like broken overpowered, like Limbo, for example, they add something like that, it's obviously broken overpowered. But the thing is, players rejoice over that. They applaud you. They go, yay, that's awesome. Thank you for adding something broken overpowered. And what you wind up with is that reinforces digital extremes to continue doing that. And then when they add something that's really underpowered and is weak, players get angry and they freak out or get mad, and then it reinforces digital, or it takes away from their desire to add anything like that. So we're reinforcing them to go up the power curve. And then what we also do is we call for them to buff things that are underpowered. And so when they buff it, if they buff it from underpowered, from really underpowered to just slightly underpowered, like slightly below the power curve, people are not satisfied. Like, remember when they buffed Vauban, for example, and they made him pretty close to balance, and people were saying his animation time is too slow on his third ability. His second ability sucks, it does no damage. So then they buffed him again to being quite overpowered. Well, what's overpowered now? What was overpowered then is normal now. And people rejoiced and go, yay, that's awesome, thank you. And that this puts D in a position where they can't nerf him now. And whenever Digital Extremes nerf something that's broken, overpowered, how do the players react? Oh, my power fantasy, you're breaking my power fantasy. Like, what? Come on. So obviously this just reinforces this situation that's keeps going, ramping up and up and up. And then you've got people like me where it reaches a point where it trivializes the game and it's boring. It's not fun. Now, a long time ago, I decided that I'm heavily invested into Warframe because I like the game and it's free and it's just something I can get into and I can come in and out of. There's a lot of reasons why I invested myself into it. But man, is it ever boring to just log in. And for me, for example, to follow the advice of somebody and say, just power yourself down. All right, I'll power myself down and I'll go try opening some void relics. Oh, gee whiz, what do you know? There's somebody running ahead of me, clearing the mission in 2 minutes flat because we're trying to be time efficient, right? That's not fun, man. That's a grind. It's a grind. So anyway, let's move on to the next tab. I'm done talking about all that. If you like what I just said right there, leave me a comment down below or give a like, because I'd love to hear from you, from other people who want to speak on this. All right, let's move on to the next comment. Okay, Loza03 said, in Warframe, that experience could be said to be quite similar, alongside the specifics of the badass space ninja magician, except it's not balanced. The game doesn't reward you for playing like a badass space ninja, at least not as much. It rewards you for spamming the same key over and over again and watching the fireworks, disabling the game's AI in one way or another, or rendering yourself functionally immortal so you're never in danger. I would go as far as to say that eventually the game ceases to even really be an action game, since playing in that way is one of the least efficient methods to play in order to succeed by the metrics of the game itself sets: acquisition of loot and mission success rate and time. He said a lot right there, and he nailed a lot of points, and you can see the parallels between what he just said and what I just said. Moving on to the next point. Oh yeah, this person deleted their comment. I don't know why. Zyla Larzau? I don't know why you deleted your comment, but you really did a great job. Earlier on in the thread, this person said, I don't understand why power fantasy amounts to seal clubbing for so many players. I feel powerful when I'm killing something powerful. Totally agree with you. Totally agree with you. Imagine if you went to watch a boxing match or something, or you went to watch a sports event or something like that, and it was like the super high-end league versus like a bunch of 6-year-olds. Like, it wouldn't even be interesting. It's like, you know who's going to win. Imagine watching an MMA fight where you've got this 10 times champion versus someone that's like they've never fought before and they just knock him out in one punch. Boom, fight's over. Okay, that was the point, guys. The point was the end. This goes back to the whole, it's the journey, not the destination. If the end was the point, then the best songs would be the shortest songs. The best video games would be the shortest video games, and movies and so on. You show up to a fight, the guy beats the guy in one punch, boom, fight's over. Hey, I'm so happy because that took only 10 seconds of my time. Thank goodness it's over. I got my reward. I saw the end of the fight. What? This is when the end becomes more important than the process of getting there. And it's you can see more and more of this external motivation in the player base in Warframe, and not so much of the intrinsic motivation or the satisfaction and the joy of just playing the game, right? Okay, let's move on to the next point. Okay, so I included this person's comment because he said he's been gaming for 27 years, and he has a pretty good point, so we'll just go with it. It's becoming a compelling, the whole is power fantasy is becoming a compelling argument since the person using such term doesn't want to see their damage number porn nerfed. I've been gaming for 27 years, and the first time I've seen that term is in here, in this forum, thrown in as some genre-defining characteristic. Yes, the first time I heard it was in Quiet Shy's video where she mentioned it. So much that I genuinely Googled its meaning, only to find that it's a generic concept valid for entertainment products generically. It's not a surprise that you never see anyone using that term as an argument, reiterating on its meaning and how it should affect a video game's playability. That's because the term itself doesn't mean anything, or at least not from a gameplay point of view, especially in an entertainment form such as the video game, in which 99% of the products created, you are meant to impersonate someone with the power of changing the status quo. So yeah, it can only be used to describe a game's lore, but gameplay-wise, it means jack shit. And the final comment, I love this one, this is funny. DE Monkey said, in response to this, to some, power fantasy is being able to waste hordes of enemies at no effort and with no threat. And he said, I don't know what, or he or she, I don't know what you mean. I saw this old dude putting down ant powder the other day. What a legend. I could almost feel the power radiating from him as he set up his trap to kill all the little buggers. And what's more, he knew it. He knew how powerful he looked. He flexed his bicep a bit just to show off. Gave me a wink as well. I'm not gay, but man, I was tempted. I only wish I could be that powerful. That's hilarious. And look at his comment. Look at his reputation to comment ratio. Also very positive rep to comment ratio. It's funny and it makes a really good point. So that's it. That's all that I've got to say, guys. Thanks for watching. I don't know when I'm going to make the next video. I've got tons of unfinished projects. Yeah, I just wanted to speak about all this and make a video about something that not very many other people are talking about, at least that I'm not seeing very many people talking about. This is a channel where I'd rather serve needs that are not being filled by the rest of the community. So that's it, guys. Thanks for watching. Bye.